Hey everyone, looks like we're live. I'm here with Kevin. How are you, Kevin?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Recently moved to Madrid, so been enjoying the sun last few weeks.
Rub it in.
It's okay, you're in Texas. Can't complain about that.
And we got nothing but sun in Texas, but it's not Madrid. Nobody longs to go to Texas, but well, maybe some do. Maybe some folks do. Now I'm going to take flack from anybody who actually lives in Texas, who is offended by that. Sorry, folks.
They'll forgive you. So we're already at awesome 350 viewers. So we're gonna leave some time for people to join in. As you join in, you should have something on the right to comment and post questions, so you can let us know in there where you're coming from. And if I figure out how to see your answers, I will comment on them.
Yeah, I will also comment on them. I can't see any of them, but I'll chip in.
We can't see them yet, but we'll get there.
And if you listen real closely, you may be able to hear my neighbor vacuuming.
We'll cool, yeah.
And if you listen real closely, you may be able to hear my neighbor vacuuming.
Cool, yeah.
And if you listen real closely, you may be able to hear my.
Okay, yeah, I'm not able to see the questions without opening the chat, but I see we've got people a bit from all over the world. Closing in on 500 viewers. We'll start in just a couple of minutes, I think.
All right.
So this is the first time we do this, right, Kevin?
Yeah, this is our first one together.
Yeah.
And I don't know what took us so long. Other than me, I'm pretty much the reason we took so long, I think. Because I think we actually talked about doing this a good solid year ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. But it took us some time. It's almost as if we had full-time jobs for our respective companies, right?
Or something.
Something.
Or a couple of different careers going. Yeah. It was me filling you out, man. I had to get a sense of who Ricardo is and whether or not I like that jam.
Yeah. That makes sense. I'm happy it worked out in the end.
Nobody could ever be against Ricardo. Nobody.
Oh, it's nice of you to say. Awesome. All right, I think we're going to start. So if you're here, it's probably because you want to learn about book marketing. So we had this idea, as I was mentioning, over a year ago to do a presentation together, ReadSee and Draft to Digital. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident that the question we get the most is how do I market a book? Any question around book marketing. So I thought it's the perfect webinar to start. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ricardo Fagin. I've got much longer hair now. I've got a beard, but I still look something like that. I'm one of the founders of ReadSee. You can reach me at any time at this email address. I'm always happy to answer. Also happy to comment on marketing plans, on ads, on whatever. I'm trying to write a book right now on Facebook ads for authors, which will be my first book, because every conference I go to, people ask me, are you an author? And every time I have to say no. So at some point, I'll be able to say yes.
That's excellent. I was one of those people who chastised you for not being an author.
I know. It's your fault if I'm writing. God, it's hard. And if you have never heard of ReadSee, we're basically an international community of really world-class professionals. So think book editors, cover designers, illustrators, book marketers, ghostwriters, and we've recently added author website designers as well. We only accept around 3% of the freelancers who apply to be listed on our marketplace. So we're very, very picky about the people we'll list on there. And it's the right place to find any professional for your book projects. And I'm here with Kevin.
Hello. I'm Kevin Tumlinson. I'm the director of marketing for Draft to Digital. And there's my email address. You can feel free to email me any questions during or after the show. And Draft to Digital is a well. Let's pop over. So Draft to Digital. So we're here to help authors convert their manuscripts, distribute their books worldwide, with support the whole way. Basically, we are the top ebook publisher aggregator online. And we will help you from beginning to end, really. We've got a lot of cool stuff, some of which overlaps with Reedsy, but it's competition.
Exactly. We're not going to be talking about that. Don't worry.
No problem at all.
See the typesetting and formatting bit here. We're going to skip that. No, so
options, man. We give authors options.
Exactly.
The two companies are all about empowering the indie author. That's what we're for.
And all in all, we're pretty complementary, I think. So if we look at the indie publishing journey here, we're going to be talking about the marketing, but Reedsy covers editing, design. Reedsy and Draft to Digital can both help with typesetting and formatting, and then we'll leave the distribution to Draft to Digital.
And what I like about your little graphic here is that marketing is actually a through line through the whole process. I like that.
Absolutely. That's what our designer came up with to illustrate that marketing starts when you write the book, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And if we continue that through line, so there are two sides for me to marketing. There are things you do to build your platform, so over time, and then there are things you do every time you publish a book. So today we're going to be focusing more on kind of building a marketing plan for your next release. So we're going to talk a little bit about mailing lists. We're not going to talk that much about author websites, but we're really going to focus on like marketing plans for your next book, so that when you launch your next book, you really have a solid plan in place, channels to test, you sort out your metadata and all that stuff. Cool. So what are we going to cover, Kevin?
All right. We're going to look at what you need to know before you plan your actual launch, how to put together a marketing plan, the most popular marketing channels you can leverage, when and why it makes sense to hire professional help. And we're going to drill down into each of those, so you get more details than just this top level stuff. So I think it's going to be pretty entertaining and pretty eventful for people and pretty helpful.
I hope so.
I hope the entertaining part comes through. Actually, I don't want anybody falling asleep on us.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. So we've promised we're gonna try to stay under an hour for this presentation, and then we're gonna open up for questions. You can post questions at any time. We've got people monitoring the video, the webinar, and writing down questions for us, and they're gonna send us the questions at the end. So post them at any time, and we'll address everything at the end of the webinar. Cool. So we're going to start with what you need to know before you plan your next book launch. Because obviously, if you've got like a book coming up, you're not just going to sit down and start writing a marketing plan. There's a bunch of things you need to figure out first before you start drafting it. I'll let you lead this, Kevin.
Yeah. So everyone talks about goals. You hear people, if you follow anyone in space who's an expert on this, or if you happen to be coming in from the internet marketing space, goals are the one thing you hear people talk about. Sometimes you don't hear them talk about exactly what they mean by that. I love this list though, because the top one is I want to make a living out of writing. That I think is the primary goal that most authors come in with. Wanting to hit a bestseller list is it's not particularly the goal I chase all the time. It's fun when you do hit a bestseller list, but if that's your goal, then you need to plan accordingly. There are certain things that you need to do that would be different if your concern is primarily making a living. I want the book to act as a lead for my other activities, and that is appropriate for mostly the nonfiction crowd. Like if you're a coach, or you've got some other practice, maybe you're an attorney, whatever your career happens to be, you may use the book as sort of the ultimate marketing tool, ultimate business card. I want to build thought leadership is an interesting goal, because that's one of the things, like my role at Draft to Digital is positioning us as a thought leader. So books and other content help to establish your credibility and authority on your area of expertise. So you would have a different marketing approach depending on how you're planning to use that material. And I Just Want a Book out there is kind of my favorite, I'll be honest with you, because I've known people who started fantastic and amazing careers who started with nothing but that as their goal. So goal setting is very important in this business. If you know your goal, then it changes your approach to the marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of authors come in not really knowing their goal. I think that's the number one mistake. But I mean, for this webinar, we're going to assume that most of you guys want to make a living out of your writing.
Yeah. I would assume, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that that's the number one goal for most people who put forth the effort to write a book and who actually decide they want to attend a marketing webinar.
Yeah, that's true. And listen to us two for an hour.
Right. So we're going to talk about targeting, and this is a quote. I pulled this. Now this is we're going to call this an apocryphal quote because it's hard to verify whether Henry Ford ever actually said this. But if you're a fan of the 4-Hour Workweek, he quotes this in there. If everyone is your customer, then no one is your customer. Targeted marketing means you find that audience. Sometimes you hear it referred to as your 1,000 raving fans. Your core audience, the specific group of people that you're going to market to who are going to buy your book. The more focused you are, or we say it on the page here, the narrower your target market, the easier it will be to reach them. That means that the more you know about them, you know where they hang out, you know what they buy, you know what their habits are. It makes it much easier to reach them. And Ricardo, you mentioned, and I love this. I've never heard it referred to as proto-personas, but I know what you're talking about. It's the ideal reader here, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a Latin. It's a Latin term I learned in marketing business school, I think. And to justify my investment in business school, I had to use it in a webinar at some point.
To justify all the money spent on business.
Exactly.
I'm right there with you.
I know some Latin, but yeah, it's exactly that. It's like describing your ideal reader as the image shows, like going really deep down on their age, demographics, types of books they read, where they hang out, things like that.
Yeah. And again, I mean, the more you know about that reader, the easier it's going to be to craft and tailor the right marketing message, and also to find where to place that message.
Absolutely. So some tools to kind of finding the characteristic of your target market I find are useful are browsing Amazon categories. Obviously, it's the first thing like you should do when you think about where you're going to place your book. Because Amazon does have a lot of data about books, so if they've got a specific category in there, it's that there's demand for it. So I recommend you go you click, for example, if you're writing mystery and thriller, you're clicking here and you see what kind of subcategories pop up. And if you get to like espionage, there's probably no subcategory, so you're probably written an espionage book.
Right. And these are slightly different than what the BISAC categories that you may have heard about. There's a lot of categories on Amazon that are in addition to the traditional BISAC categories.
Interesting. And we're guessing that it's because Amazon has seen a demand for those types of books.
Yeah,
created a category for it. That's
my theory, and that's what I hear others speculate, that Amazon when they start seeing trends in a category, subcategory, they'll graduate that category up into a full-fledged Amazon category.
That makes sense. We'll talk more about categories later and kind of finding the right ones for your book. I also really like Facebook Audience Insights, because I do love Facebook advertising. So if you have a Facebook ad account, you can use Facebook Audience Insights for free. And they basically tell you everything about a given audience. So if you plug in like people in the US who are fans of Janet Ivanovic, you're going to get that it's 80% women. You're going to get their relationship status, education level. You can also look at page likes, so what other kind of pages they like. So you're going to find comp authors, more ideas for targeting as well.
Yeah. And we got a middle column here, analyzing your competition. And I don't like the word competition. I'm just going to put it out there right away. But it does help us focus on the idea of other, looking towards others who are selling in your same space. So you want to first look at your own readers. If you've already gotten a start on this is easier. If you don't have readers, you can skip this step. But the great thing about having your own set of readers and being in contact with them is you can start qualifying them and asking them, just kind of ping them every now and then, like, what drew you to me? When you decide to buy that first Kevin Tumlinson book, what made you make that decision? And then as you learn that information, it can help you in figuring out who you're appealing to and who your target market can be. And then look at other writers and, start trying to ask questions without being too intrusive. Some writers are very open about this, pardon me. And some are a little more guarded about it, but ask when you befriend other writers in Facebook groups or elsewhere. Start asking how they're reaching their audience, how are they crafting their messaging, how are they advertising, and you'll start to pick up not only insight into your audience or your potential audience, but you can gain some insight into the mechanics and techniques you can use to actually reach that audience. So analyzing your competition. Or co-opetition.
Exactly, co-op. Let's put that in there. And obviously, I think the last thing you need to figure out before you work on the marketing plan is how you're actually going to distribute the book, because that's going to affect how you're going to market it. And you're the expert on distribution.
Yeah. We're going to say that. I'm the expert in distribution. And what's funny is, we have KU versus wide, and you would think that we would be all about wide, and we are all about wide at Drafted Digital. We all believe that wide distribution is the smartest long-term plan for you. There are actual legitimate use cases for using Kindle Unlimited, particularly if you're just starting. So I don't shoot that idea down entirely at all. We can get into that at any level. If people have questions, I'm happy to answer. But there is a kind of strategy involved there. There is also selective distribution. If you are, for example, you've already got your book set up in Kindle, and you don't want to you go through a distributor like Drafted Digital, then you can keep your book in Kindle and go to Drafted Digital for anyone and everyone else. There's really no reason you have to use us for everything. There are some legitimate reasons. I was talking to someone just yesterday who's in New Zealand. They use us so that they can get to Barnes & Noble because they're unable to get to Barnes & Noble in New Zealand. There are folks who use us to get to Apple because they don't have a Mac and they can't use the Apple software to get into the Apple the iBook store or Apple Books now. Those are some legitimate reasons why you might want to be selective in how you choose to distribute. Of course, we can make lots of arguments for why you might want to use Drafted Digital to go wide. It does make things a lot easier. It's a streamlined dashboard kind of thing, but you got to plan around your goals and you got to strategize around the resources you have at hand. Which formats, ebook, paperback, or audiobooks? Of course, we say all three. Pre-orders versus no pre-orders. So I actually, Ricardo, I was hoping we could bat this around a little because I literally just before this call had an author, good friend of mine, who I don't want to out him because I didn't ask his permission, but he just did a pre-order and he's kind of upset with the results. And so I have always thought pre-orders were very handy, particularly if you already have a large readership. But there's kind of pluses and minuses on either side of this. What's your take on pre-orders?
My take on pre-orders that on any other store than Amazon, I think they're probably the best option. Whereas on Amazon, it really depends on your strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's important to describe is how pre-orders work on the different stores, right? So on iBooks, for example, if you put your book on pre-order for, let's say, 90 days, all
Mhm.
the sales you're going to get while your book is on pre-order are going to be counted on the day you make the sale and on launch day. So it's going to accumulate sales on launch day, which are going to help you shoot your book up the rankings on launch day.
Right.
And I don't know if that's the case on Barnes and Noble and Kobo, but I know it's not the case on Amazon.
Right. Yeah. Amazon, those count on the day of purchase, I believe, right?
Yeah.
If they pre-order, yeah. You do get some juice though with all those books going live at the same time, with all those sales going live at the same time. It just looks pretty, and can be kind of exciting because all that gets applied to your account at the same on one day. But yeah, that's overall. I think that's the same strategy most people recommend. Is you can use pre-orders elsewhere much more effectively than on Amazon. So.
Yeah, I mean, on Amazon, what you want is to get the maximum visibility at launch. So if you have a big mailing list and you hit that mailing list while the book is on pre-order, you're going to get the visibility while the book is on pre-order, which is going to be less powerful than getting it at launch. So some people argue that having a pre-order on Amazon kind of takes away some promotional power at launch. It's up to you to see whether it makes sense for you or not. Like, I know an author who's in Kindle Unlimited. So for those of you who didn't understand KU versus wide, it's basically whether you want to be in Kindle Unlimited KU, which requires you to be exclusive to Amazon, or whether you want to distribute on Amazon and also other ebook stores. So Apple, Kobo, Barnes.
Yeah, I fell down on the job there. I should have elaborated. Yeah. So Kindle Unlimited is if you are enrolled in the KDP Select program with Amazon, we'll put you in their Kindle Unlimited library, which is we'll just break it out a little more in case people don't know. But Kindle Unlimited is a subscription-based service Amazon offers to readers. They pay like $10 a month, and they get virtually an unlimited supply of books. They can check out a number of books at one time, and the author gets paid through the KDP Select program. They get paid for page reads. So and it's a minuscule amount. It's like is much less than a cent. It's like, averages about 0.0005 cents or something. I may have thrown an extra zero in there or left one out, but you get one of the advantages, one of the things that's been beneficial for authors in that is that they, there's less barrier to entry. People are kind of okay with testing out a book from KU from an untried author. So they see a little bit of benefit from that. And even though you're getting overall paid less for the book than you would have if they just purchased it, it's been beneficial for a lot of authors to get those page reads over time. They sort of accumulate, and they can actually amount to some pretty decent income. The disadvantages to that are that you are limited. It's an exclusive distribution deal through Amazon, meaning you can only distribute your book through Amazon's KDP Select program. And even though the book is still for sale on Amazon, your sales and your KU reads, they can all work together. That's great, but you can't sell the book. You can't even you're not technically allowed to even give the book away to readers, the advanced reader copy and that sort of thing. Technically, you're not allowed to do any of that. So, people do, and Amazon's not that strict about that sort of thing, but it's one of those sort of do it your own risk kind of deals. Now, of course, Draft to Digital, we believe in wide distribution, and that's the downside to wide distribution is it's a slower growth kind of thing. You got to put a little more effort and energy into the marketing of your books, and you don't get those page reads at all, but you get a much broader sweep. You get a much bigger audience, potential audience at least. So I always say, I kind of frame it as no one ever got into writing and publishing saying, I can't wait to only get Amazon readers. We all started writing because we want to be the next Stephen King. We want to be the next Neil Gaiman. We want to be the next, Dan Brown, or insert your author here. So you're limiting yourself and your exposure with that exclusive distribution. I don't want to get into a fist fight about it. I know there are people who are adamant that they love the KU program. They love the exclusivity. They're doing great. Man, and I think it's awesome. I leverage KU for some of my books, especially when I start a brand new series, and then eventually go wide with each of those books as they pick up momentum. And I think that's a perfectly viable strategy, for new authors, especially if you're, I started over in a genre and I've been leveraging that to help build up momentum for that series. And it's been great for me. And so I know it's great for the authors, but overall, my career depends on being distributed as wide and far as possible.
I agree with you. And so if we, for the authors who are kind of hesitating in the audience, I'm going to try to give a kind of answer for all of these kind of choices. So KU versus wide, I'd say, as Kevin said, for your long-term career, wide's probably better. If you're launching a new series and you want extra visibility on that series, especially if it's a genre where that is KU heavy, which means that most of the best-selling books are in KU, then you might want to start big in KU for the additional visibility.
Right.
Then which formats would definitely recommend going for all three formats? Audiobooks are more expensive to produce. So you might do it once you've kind of built a series and built a following. But ebook and paperback, it's the same thing basically. Both have tools that allow to format to ebook and paperback, and for free. So there's no reason to not do both.
Right. Yeah. In fact, you really want to make sure that you always have at least your ebook and paperback. The paperback is, among other things, it's a revenue source, which is great. But in addition to that, there's a psychological effect for people who are book shopping. You go through this too as a consumer. If you look and see that there's an ebook available, that's going to have a certain amount of impact. If you look and see that there's an ebook and there's also the paperback available, it adds this legitimacy, and I'm going to put that in air quotes because you're legitimate and you're empowered as it is. You don't need anything to empower you at that point. But having those two there has a nice psychological impact on the reader. There's also what I always refer to as the Scotch effect, which is you see the ebook price and you see the paperback price. The paperback price is generally always higher unless you're in traditional publishing for some insane reason. But the paperback price is higher. And so in comparison, the ebook price looks like a better bargain. And the psychology there is, they're going to lean more towards buying than passing because they feel like they're getting a deal. I call it the Scotch effect because if you were going into a liquor store to buy a bottle of Scotch, they generally put like the cheap $20 bottles on one side, and then there's like a $70 bottle, and there's like a $700 bottle. So suddenly the $70 bottle looks like a bargain.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think of almost everything in terms of Scotch. So
no, that's a good ground rule.
Yeah.
And on the pre-order versus no pre-order, kind of our stand would be do pre-orders on all other retailers, and on Amazon it really depends on your strategy. A good reason to do a pre-order on Amazon is if you're starting a new series.
Yeah.
And you want to show that it's a series. It's not just one book. So you launch book 1 and then you put books 2 and 3 on pre-order. And people can already see that it's a series and that there's books coming up.
Yeah, I would recommend, by the way, if you're going to do that, a handy strategy is to go ahead and do, if you're using KU, for example, you get access to their marketing tools. And you can do countdown deals for pricing. And I recommend doing that. And countdown deals, basically you set a low price and then over X number of days, it goes up in increments until it's back to full price. But you can also just set your price lower, even if you're not in KDP Select and if you're distributing wide. So you launch the book, do the pre-order with the new book, and then lower the price of your surrounding books. So you're releasing, let's just say you're releasing book 3, go ahead and drop the price of books 1 and 2 to something you're comfortable with. I usually drop to about 99 cents, honestly, because as people see that pre-order and they go and check and see, what else is in the series, they'll typically go ahead and buy those inexpensive books while they're on sale, while they're marked down, and then order the pre-order. So you get 3 sales for the price of 1, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a common strategy. That's a really good point. And we're going to be talking more about price promotions afterwards. So we've ironed out what your goals are, who your target market is, what your distribution which distribution options you've gone for. So now it's time to really go into the marketing plan. So why a marketing plan? I like this quote from Rachel Abbott, who was one of the first indie authors to reach #1 on the whole of Amazon.co.uk. And she basically attributes this success to her finally sitting down and drafting a marketing plan for her next release.
Yeah.
That's the kind of how powerful it can be, because it organizes your thoughts, and it also forces you to kind of think about new strategies and track the effectiveness of those strategies. Now, candles and fireworks are one of your marketing philosophies, right?
Yeah, I wanted to throw this in because it ties in with a lot of what we're going to talk about, and with some of what we've already covered, which was, even with the wide versus exclusive conversation. And I have a theory I keep pushing out to people, and I'm hoping eventually it catches on. But the idea is that, marketing is a sort of dual strategy kind of thing. And it's like candles and fireworks. So candles are, they're a light source. They're reliable. They're reusable. They have low overhead, low maintenance. They're a constant burn kind of thing. And then fireworks are abrupt, flashy, attention-getting, but they have a higher cost, and they burn out quicker. The idea is to get a whole lot of attention and draw a crowd. So you wouldn't use a firework to light a room, right? But you would use a firework to get people to come to the party, where you can start handing out candles. It'll be a weird party. But if you use both these ideas strategically, the general idea is you want to use the high overhead explosive stuff to get people to come to you. For example, join your mailing list, so that you can do a long-term, more stable marketing strategy, the candle strategy, just having a relationship with these readers who came in for that, that initial burst. And the firework, you might compare that to, say, a BookBub promotion, whereas the candle would be more like your mailing list. So it's a marketing philosophy, and it's a fun one and memorable. And if we keep these things in mind as we go forward, I think a lot of this stuff is going to click. You can put most of what we talk about into one category or the other.
Yeah, I like that. We're going to try to say what the candles are and what the fireworks are in the next few slides.
Yeah, if I remember to do it, I'll totally do it.
Awesome. And yeah, to go back to KU versus wide, as you mentioned, I think it's David Gaughran who coined this theory that, to use your terms, candles are much better if you're wide. They're going to be more effective. Whereas if you're in KU, fireworks are going to be more effective.
Right.
Right. So you can
They're
read more
good for those bursts, that initial bunch of sales, or that initial bunch of people getting on your mailing list. You want to get as much attention in as short a time as possible. And that's what that's for. But ultimately, what you want is a nice, even, slow-burning marketing plan.
And that's what we're going to be talking about. Cool. So we're going to cover all the things that should go in your kind of launch plan. First thing to iron out is retailer metadata. So where you're going to place your books and how you're going to present them. Then we're going to talk about securing reviews, even before you launch the book. Then we're going to talk about admin, because everyone needs to do that, updating your backlist, website. Every time you've got a launch, you got to do all these things, and you need to kind of plan them in advance so you don't forget to do them. And then we're going to talk about the crucial thing, sales. So how many sales do you need in order to rank where you want to rank, and then which channels you're going to use to get those sales. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Amazon page metadata. It's going to be a bit Amazon heavy for next 10 minutes because
life is Amazon heavy.
Because life is Amazon heavy. Tell me about it. But yeah, you do want to get those Amazon sales, even if you're wide. So some basics, you can pick 2 categories on Amazon where to place your book, one for print as well. You can pick 7 keywords, and these are going to be extremely important for visibility. These are going to determine basically how readers find your books. And then there are 3 elements of your metadata that are not going to help how really readers find your books, but are going to determine whether they buy the book once they found it or not. One is the blurb, the other one's the cover, and the third one, last one, is the Amazon look inside.
Yep.
So Amazon categories. How do you pick your categories, Kevin?
You know, I look at books that I think are the most like my book, and then I go to Amazon because it's a great research tool, and I look at the categories that those books are falling into. That's my primary way.
That makes sense. Yeah. If you're unsure where your books should be, or if you don't know kind of what your comp titles are, you can find the full list of Amazon categories in the left sidebar when you go to this URL, amazon.com/Kindle ebooks. And if you click on one of those categories, there are going to be subcategories that are going to appear. So you can kind of go down into the dark world of Amazon subcategories.
The dark world.
And then, as Kevin mentioned, if you find a book that you feel like is really similar to yours, you click on the book and you scroll down to the product details, and then you're going to find out where that book is listed, which categories it picked. So this one is in literary fiction, biographical, historical fiction, biographical, and historical fiction, European.
Yeah.
And an important thing to take a look at as well is, for that book, is it's Amazon bestseller rank. So it's number 500 in the paid in the Kindle store. And what this tells you is that a book that's ranking 501 in the Kindle store is ranking number 2, number 3, and number 5 in these 3 categories.
Right.
So then if you really want to dig into the data, you build a spreadsheet a little bit like this. So this is an example I did for an author of medieval Italian fiction. And I said, okay, these are the categories where you might want to list your book. So I pulled up all the possible categories. And then I looked at the Amazon bestseller rank of book 1 in that category. So I looked at this basically for the book 1 in all these categories. And the book 1 in literature historical Italian was ranking 14 overall on the Kindle store. So I noted that down. And I did that for all the books in there. Then I did it for books 1 through 6 as well. And the idea to do that, it's very data heavy, very geeky way of like looking at categories. But the main idea is looking at how many sales a day am I going to need in order to rank high in that category.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense basically if you're writing your first thriller and you don't have big mailing list, you just list your book under the big category thriller on Amazon, because the books that are ranking on the first page in thriller are getting probably hundreds of sales every day, and that's not what you're going to be able to match even when you launch your book. So you want to go down into maybe espionage or military thriller or other kind of thriller subcategories, which you might be more familiar with than I am, and pick a category that is less competitive, basically. Now, there's a really cool tool that I've been playing with, which is KDP Rocket. I don't know if you've tried it, Kevin.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dave's a great guy, and this is a fantastic tool. I use it all the time.
Cool. So yeah, it basically replicates what I did with the spreadsheet on the slide before, except it does it for you. So I think it's a $99 tool, but it's definitely worth it if you want to analyze categories, keywords, and even keywords for Amazon advertising, which we'll be talking about later. So it tells you basically how competitive categories are and how many sales a day you need in order to rank number 1, number 2, number 3 in these different categories. So it helps you pick the categories in a data-driven way. And for keyword research, it's pretty much the same thing. How do you pick your keywords, Kevin?
All right. Well, I use KDP Rocket and another couple of tools I won't mention, and I do some testing. I do a lot of testing. Like I like to go and find like the top 3 books in my that fit my category and everything, and start kind of plugging in keywords from those. And it's a lot of hit and miss for me. There's probably a much more scientific and methodical way to do it, but that's how I do it. It's worked out well so far.
Do you change them often, or you?
I will periodically, about once a quarter, go through and play around with them and test and see which keywords work better. So about every 3 months, I'll go back through.
Interesting. No, that's cool. Yeah.
So maybe not often,
Well,
but
it's pretty often. I'd say most authors don't change them. Like they don't even change them once a year.
yeah, you should though. It's like turning soil. You know, you want to because sometimes a keyword plays out. It kind of clicks with the zeitgeist of the moment, kind of thing. If you if you happen to be hitting on a keyword that is popular now, all sorts of things could impact the efficiency of that keyword later. So it's good to at least come back, maybe once a year at least, and kind of reanalyze all your marketing methods.
It's like turning soil. If you'd come up with that before, I would have put it like a nice little illustration on the
Next time.
Next time, okay. I'm gonna reuse that. So this is just a spreadsheet from an export from KDP Rocket that tells you, again, you find keywords, you plug them in, and they're going to tell you the average Amazon searches as estimated by KDP Rocket, and the competition score for them. So it might not be 100% exact, but it gives you a pretty good idea of whether a keyword's competitive, it gets searches, and things like that. And finding keyword ideas. So yeah, either you target books in your genre, or using the Amazon autocomplete, which a lot of people know about, but for those of those who don't.
Yeah, I've done this quite a bit actually. I kind of forgot about this, but yeah, this is another kind of hit or miss way. But what I do is exactly what you're doing here. You just type the first few characters and you look and see, these are in general the top ranking categories, or search terms rather. And so you can grab that list and start plugging that into KDP Rocket or the tool of choice, your tool of choice, to see how they do. You might also just try, by the way, just Google searches, although KDP Rocket actually gives you Google keyword results. So yeah,
there's the Google Keyword Planner if you run AdWords as well, which can be helpful.
Yeah, very, very helpful.
Now a little secret tip. I found that a lot of books are listed in 3 categories. And I think David Gaughran talked about this a little bit in Amazon Decoded, his book, is that there are categories with keyword requirements, right? Have you played with those?
Yeah, a little. Not as successfully, I think, as David has.
So I think the main idea is that to be listed in some categories, Amazon requires you to put a keyword in there. So if you pick 2 categories, for example, but you don't pick historical time periods, medieval, but you add medieval as a keyword, you might have, with some luck, you might get listed in medieval as well.
And my understanding of this is that if you use, because you get those 7 key terms for Amazon. My understanding of this is if you use a variety of key terms, you might actually be in more than those 3 categories. It's just those are the top 3. So that's the way I understand it.
Interesting. So in any case, we'll give you a link to this. If you Google Amazon categories with keyword requirements, it's probably a good idea to dedicate some of your 7 keywords to categories you want to be listed in.
Yeah.
Cool. Should talk about the blurb. So this is more on the craft side of things, but it's very marketing as well. Like we've had a lot of authors come to Reedsy and asking for help with writing their blurb. And in the beginning, we hesitated between sending them to an editor or a marketer. And now we really don't hesitate anymore because the blurbs written by marketers generally work a lot better on Amazon than the blurbs written by editors. It's
a very different writing skill set. So my background is in copywriting, and I spent the bulk of my career as a copywriter, a marketing copywriter, and I actually write blurbs I'm not advertising myself. I'm not doing that because I actually only do referral only work, but I actually write cover descriptions and or commonly referred to as blurbs. There's a whole thing about blurbs, by the way. We could get off on a tangent, but I write these for some some big time bestsellers out there, and there is actual science to this. So having somebody who understands marketing principles doing this for you, somebody you select through Reedsy, it's a very good use of your time and money.
Thank you. And if you had to give like one tip on writing a blurb, aside from hiring someone to Reedsy?
Oh, that was going to be my tip, was hire somebody through Reedsy.
All right.
But also know your target audience very well is my primary tip.
Okay, cool. I think one thing that's important for the blurb is getting the first line right, because Amazon only shows you so much when you're on the book page. There's a little read more here, so you basically get in a little paragraph.
Yeah.
So I mean, Mark Dawson's been testing this a lot, but first line is bolded, so he uses HTML formatting like this, and second line is in italic. So he throws in social validation. He throws in quotes from the time, so it's easier for him because he's got all that. But
yeah,
HTML formatting can be used by pretty much anyone.
Yeah, and I like to use the H2 tag, which is one of the header tags on that first line, because it makes it a little bigger. I think you can do H1, H2, and H3, and those are just different sized headers. And if you don't know anything about HTML, don't worry too much about this, or hire someone to do this for you, and they can do the formatting and everything for you. But the interesting thing about the first line is, basically it's kind of like, if you can tweet something interesting about your book that would make someone buy it, that's the kind of idea you'd want to use for that first. Everything above that, read more. You want to keep it concise, keep it short. We use taglines and log lines, are a couple of terms you might hear a lot. And a tagline is, this line here is a tagline. Strap yourself in. The million selling series starts here. That's a tagline. A log line would be something along the lines of, it's like Jack Reacher meets Rain Man, which I'd read that book. So you get a lot of punch out of those things. They're very concise. They're used in the film industry a lot. I used to say, pick up a TV guide. Now people just stare at me blankly when I say that. But look at any like movie or TV listing, short form movie or TV listing somewhere online. And you'll see they use these techniques. It's all about getting that initial attention so that they'll click that read more.
Awesome. And the last step is the Amazon look inside. So if you're a reader, you see a cover that's interesting, you click on it, you read the blurb, it's still interesting, check the reviews. And then a lot of readers, I've never done this, but I know a lot of readers open the little look inside thing.
Yeah, I don't do this either, but I know that readers do. They have to, or otherwise Amazon would just pull it, right? I mean, I don't ask anybody. I should start asking. But I do like that this is a feature, and I like that they have it keyed to go straight to, I believe, chapter 1 usually.
Yeah.
So the key here then is just like writing in general, man. You want to blow it up on that first page. I mean, that's why they say things like start with action or whatever. You want to get the blood pumping as soon as they see that, so that they just have to buy that book.
Exactly. And make sure there aren't any typos in the first page.
Make sure there are no typos in the first page, unless they're intentional.
Write a book on grammar, for example.
Right.
Cool. Let's talk about reviews. Now, there are often a lot of typos in the reviews, but that's not something you can control.
The reviews are all for typos.
Yeah. So I often get the question, how do I get reviews before I launch my book, basically, or if it's my first book? And my go-to answer is build a street team. Would you agree with that? Or
absolutely, man. I am going to buy my street team dinner. They're invaluable to me as a resource, and for a variety of reasons. What's that?
Can I join your street team?
Well, it's a dinner at McDonald's, but yes, you may. No, you don't like any of the food Americans like, so You're not in.
That's true. We'll dedicate another webinar to that.
Yeah, there you go. No, yeah, no. As far as the reviews, that's a really helpful thing. There are a ton of other uses for street teams that I can go into maybe in the Q&A or something. But getting those, getting them this book in their hands early. One of the tips, by the way, is let them know right up front they may be getting an early release of the book, so that it may still be an edit, for example. As you're preparing, maybe you're doing a pre-order or something.
Yeah.
So, tell them not to, don't ding me on typos, because those should be fixed by the time it goes live or something along those lines, but have a very personal relationship with your street team so that they like you, they trust you, and vice versa.
How did you find the people in your street team?
Initially, I didn't have much luck in building a street team, but as my mailing list grew, one of the things I would do is anytime someone wrote to me respectfully and said, "Hey, I found a typo on page 7 or whatever," then I would invite them in and say, "Hey, how would you like some free books?" And I'd get them in that way, because they'd already shown that they were willing to do it. I qualify, so I have a little form on my website that I send to people, and it's a qualification form. It's all about finding out whether or not they are actively reviewing books, whether or not they're articulate, that sort of thing. So they have to actually send me a link to one of their books on Amazon. That in itself, by the way, is a test, because if they can't figure out how to send me a link to their review, they can't be on the street team.
That makes sense. Yeah, you want people who are familiar with kind of the Amazon system.
Right.
And yeah, this is an example I found online as well from Stina Holmes. Same idea. She has a little thing on her website, a secret society, which is another fancy word for a street team.
Yeah.
And you can join a secret society by filling out a very, very long form that requires you to know her books very well and be familiar with Amazon as well. So same idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what's important is that not everyone should be on the street team. Like, it's very different list from your mailing list, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you don't want everyone on your mailing list to be on your street team, because then you're not really selling any books. But although if you've got 30,000 people and they're all reviewing the book, that could be useful. You want to segment and get in highly qualified people. The Stina's Secret Society does that. She's qualifying everyone that gets on the list. They're agreeing to get the book for free, but there are expectations. And so you want people who are reliable, and you want them to be friendly. You want to be able to interact with them. I have a Facebook group that is my street team. We communicate via email, but I also invited them all into the group so that they could actually discuss things together sometimes and compare notes. And that's been beneficial. And it's I have to approve everyone who goes in, and there are no deadbeats in there, because they were all invited in specifically for that purpose. So there are a lot of ways you can kind of manage the group, but the key is to communicate and be very open. Be very open and be very thick-skinned when it comes to the criticism, because sometimes these guys will say things to me that my first reaction is to get upset. Like, how dare you? And then I breathe and I realize, what, they volunteered to do this to help me, and they're being respectful about it. So I'm going to take their advice, and I don't have to do it. If it's something you just feel very strongly about, you don't have to do it. But don't go shooting it down your street team. Like, don't go to them and say, "No, that's a stupid idea. I'm not going to do that." Be as respectful to them as you want them to be to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So another way to get reviews, if you're really kind of desperate for reviews on your first book, is to contact book bloggers. Now, I don't always recommend that because it can be very time intensive.
Yeah.
But we do have a listing of book review blogs on ReadSee. Here's the URL. So if you want to find 50 book blogs who review books in your genre and send them an email, you can try it.
I'm glad you have this, man. This is a great tool. I agree that it's a very time consuming process, but I think that if you are just starting in particular, and you've
Exactly.
only got 1 or 2 books, this is a great way to get some exposure. And again, you want to approach people who do this with respect. You want to go to them and know that they're probably getting quite a few people asking them to review their books.
Yeah.
So approach it strategically. Do a little bit of marketing. This is a good marketing practice. Write a great intro, or write a great query letter, basically, and just give them all the reasons why you think they'd love the book. And pay some attention to their reviews. Go read those blog posts for other books they've reviewed, so that you know what you're getting into, what their style is, and what their preferences are.
Exactly. And that's why it's time intensive, because in order for it to work, you really need to send
You really need to do the research.
individual emails. Yeah. But I mean, it's not just about reviews in this case, because most of these bloggers, they get traffic as well. And I think we show the traffic on the listing for each blog. So you're getting, on top of the review, you're probably going to get a few sales out of that at launch as well. Maybe getting a few people join your street team. You never know. So it's worth, if it's your first book, it's worth investing a little bit of time in that.
Even if it's your 50th book, it's worth it. Invest, if you're going to do it, invest the time in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, look at those beautiful covers, man.
Aren't they beautiful, eh?
I did not include this, by the way, everyone.
That's true. That's true. I did. I needed an example of a website where there were a lot of books, and so a website that the author would have to update every time they released a new book.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
I do. Yeah. And I do mine manually. Of course, now Draft Digital has a cool, we'll talk about it later, but they have a cool author page, the D2D author page, which will do this for you automatically. But I update. And in fact, occasionally I I refresh my covers every now and then I have to go back and, like, I just did that series, the Coelho Medallion, all those books. I just did that a couple of months ago and had to refresh all the covers. So you go through each one and do it. So it's a little bit of maintenance, but it's actually very beneficial, because it refreshes your website and gets a little more attention, and something you can share. Like, you can send out, hey, I've just added new books to the library, and you send that out to your mailing list. So it's one more reason to engage with your readers.
Absolutely. And so there's a website, there's a back matter of all your books as well, if you list like other books in your back matter. And I know Draft Digital's got a cool tool for that. And then there's automation sequences in your mailing list as well. For example, this author, in one of her automation emails, when you first sign up to her newsletter, she puts her complete book list, which can be a good idea.
Oh, that's a very good idea. Yeah.
But of course, every time she releases a new book, she has to update that automation workflow.
Yeah, that's something we should probably call it, because I'm a big fan of automating as many processes as possible. But there are times where you just have to put your hands on it. And in marketing in particular, you can automate the heck out of marketing. You can practically put the entire thing on autopilot. But to be really effective with it, you should be thinking in terms of, what can I do to improve incrementally? You don't have to get overwhelmed with it. You just say, okay, I've managed to get a website. In order for that website to be more effective, what's the next thing I can do? And if it's just updating your list of books, put the effort in to do that, because it can pay bigger dividends later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so one of the last few slides, we're going to talk about book marketers versus virtual assistants. And this is definitely the kind of stuff you can hire a virtual assistant for.
Yeah.
Updating all these things every time you have new release. So yeah, we mentioned this already, but a few tips to simplify your admin life. I love Draft Digital's automated backmarker tool. So please tell us more about that.
Yes. So we've got, if you are uploading your manuscript through us and you do it as a Word doc or an RTF file, we can actually add back matter in things like your copyright page, your about the author, your author bio, but we also include things like all the books, the also by page, all the books that are by this author. If you're distributing through us, then we can actually automatically update that for you every time you upload a new book. And So it keeps that list up to date, which means that all your previous books get updated with that information, so that every time someone buys a new copy of the book, they'll see all your books. It also, a lot of these services, when you upload a new version of a book, a lot of them will alert the reader that there's a new version of that book, and so they'll get the updated stuff. So there's a lot to this, and it's a very cool tool that I had nothing to do with the development of this, but I am very proud to represent it because it's so well done, and it's very focused on helping to improve the author-reader relationship.
I totally agree. It's one of my favorite features of Draw to Digital. Like, it's a small thing, but it makes a really big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost unnoticeable. You could breeze right past this and not realize how powerful this really is. But it includes a preview, a CTA for the next book, for example. You can tell it to include, a little link to check out the next book in a series, for example. Or if you've got a whole other book you want to promote, you can set that up. Now, that's a pretty effective marketing tool.
Yeah. So that's for your back matter for your website. I recommend having the website on a CMS and knowing how to use it, whether that's Wix, WordPress, whatever. If you rely on your website designer to add a new book every time you have a new release, it's going to be a pain.
Yeah. So the CMS, by the way, is a content management system, which just means that it's a hosted service that's you can actually grant access to other users on your behalf if you want. You don't have to redesign it every time. They typically use templates and that sort of thing. WordPress is the most popular. I use Squarespace. I'm a big fan of Squarespace, and it's very simple and easy to use once you figured it out. But just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry.
That's good. Squarespace affiliate? No.
No, I should be. I'm going to set that. I haven't set that up yet. No, I should have. I've been using them for like 10 years, but no, I haven't.
Yeah. So there's Squarespace, WordPress, a couple others. So when we added website designers to Reedsy, we made sure for every one of them that they actually set up the websites on a CMS and gave the author and told the author how to use it. So that's really important. If you hire a website designer, whether it's through Reedsy or elsewhere, make sure that they're not just going to create a static website for you.
That's a great service, man. I applaud you guys for that because this is one of those headaches. A lot of that freak a lot of authors out, both in terms of expense, but also in the complexity of the thing.
Yeah.
And having a resource like you guys, where you can find somebody who can help, not only help. There's also that fear, by the way, and I've had this. I've had people tell me horror stories, but you hire a web designer, and since you are not an expert on web design, for example, you could be taken advantage of fairly easily. So having a service like you guys that connects you with someone who's been vetted and is reputable is fantastic, and then hand holding you through the process of learning how to use it is just amazing.
And the final thing, if you have your complete book list in automations, and make sure you keep automations in folders like both MailChimp, MailerLite, things like that. You can also use templates, which you can update. So there are one solution is to hire a VA, another solution is to be organized and kind of use tools to automate all this admin life. Cool. So we're getting to the sales part of it. So the whole objective, in my opinion, of a marketing plan is to answer two questions. How many sales do I need every day at launch in order to rank on the first page for my categories? And how am I going to get those sales? So my thinking is in every marketing plan, there should be kind of maybe not something that as detailed as this, but an idea of how many sales you want and what you're going to do to get them.
Yeah.
So for example, here I'm emailing my street team the first day. I'm getting 30 sales. I'm also running a book promotion and promoting on Kindle Nation Daily. All this is going to cost me $200. On day 2, I'm hitting my mailing list, and then I'm doing another few things. So this is kind of an idea of I want 100 sales a day. this is what I'm going to spend to get it. And obviously, it's going to depend on your size of your mailing list, on whether you have books before in the series or not, on your whole platform. And the more books you publish, the easier it will be to kind of plan this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can pick and choose some of those components as you expand and grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know how many sales you can expect from an ad in Kindle Nation Daily when you're running a 99-cent promotion, basically.
So well organized, man. My launches are nowhere near this organized.
I think no one's launches are this organized. It's just my idea of what a launch would be from a marketer's perspective.
Right. Yeah. That's good though. This is a template, you know.
Exactly, it's a template you can use.
Yeah.
And I think to me, it's more a question of mindset. Is the important thing is I know I need 100 sales a day. What am I going to do to get them?
Yeah, yeah. I think I should point out, by the way, I'm going to make this quick, but this is a 7-day plan. But he didn't come up with these steps and everything, all the components on day one. Like this is 30, 60, sometimes 90 days out of planning and organizing. So those newsletter swaps, you want to start pretty early.
Yeah.
To arrange those, get it 3 months out. If you know your release date, and you should, 3 months out, start putting together your marketing plan so that you can actually initiate it on day one and take a lot of stress off yourself, but be much more effective as well.
Absolutely, and that's why the marketing line was like running throughout, because it starts, as we said, when you write the book.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. So we're running a little bit low on time, so we're getting to kind of the channels part, so the different things you can do in terms of marketing. I like to call them channels because there are things you can do. Not everyone needs to do Facebook ads. Not everyone needs to do BookBub ads. Not everyone needs to do press promotions even. But these are the most popular channels you can use, and then you need to test them and see whether they work for you or not.
Right.
And whether they work for you is going to depend on your book, your genre, but also on your ability and how comfortable you are doing these things. I know authors who are just like terrified at the idea of doing a press promotion because they think their books should sell at $8 and they will not do a press promotion. So if we force those authors to do one, it's not going to go smoothly because they're not going to know how to promote it, basically.
Right.
So it depends on what you're comfortable to do, but do know that they're kind of the most popular ones. First one is mailing lists. So do you use MailerLite or MailChimp, Kevin?
Actually, I use author.email.
Wow, what is that?
The one. It's one that Nick Thacker and I built. That we're going to be rolling out soon.
All right. Okay. So watch out
Free
for
plug. But I actually recommend MailChimp to people quite a bit. Mostly because it's you can get those up to 2,000 subscribers for free.
Yeah.
If you're just starting, it's a pretty good deal. I like it because of the automations and the templates that they have.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also very useful because it's so well known and popular that there are a lot of plugins. There's a lot of support out there for it. MailerLite is great. I don't want to down that service at all. I like them. They're reasonably priced, and they're very similar. But MailChimp, you got a lot more integration. For example, Squarespace has MailChimp integration built right into it, and services such as BookFunnel and InstaFreebie and things like that can actually integrate with it.
Yep, absolutely. I think BookFunnel's got MailerLite in there as well. They're making.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah.
they're making great progress on MailerLite. I like them. But I think it's safe to start on MailChimp. And if you start getting like a lot of subscribers and the price is getting out of hand, then switching to MailerLite is something a lot of authors have done, and pretty much everyone's happy with it from what I've heard. Cool. So obviously, setting up a mailing list is the first step. Now, how do you get people to sign up to your mailing list? I think the most effective way is a reader magnet, right? Yeah.
The reader magnet is a super popular. It's borrowed from the internet marketing industry. It's you'll hear it referred to sometimes as a funnel, where you offer a free item for people to sign up, and when they sign up, it gets them on your mailing list. You would presumably do an automation or a sales funnel that kind of guides them through getting to know you and your work. That would be a series of emails that come to you, autoresponders. You hear that term. But the magnet is usually, you want it to be something unique, something they can't get anywhere else is the most effective magnet. So a short story that they can only get through you that ties in with your main series, that's usually a good one. If you're a nonfiction author, maybe you've got some case studies or white papers you could offer, or maybe you've got a free consultation with you as a coach or something. So just, you can be very creative with that magnet.
Yeah, no, I know a fancy author who's offering kind of artwork that was created as part of the series by his cover designer. Cool. So that's a cool idea. Like, play with what you have in your genre. And if you're writing nonfiction, you have a lot more possibilities, obviously, like consultations and courses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And videos. But it's always a good idea to offer something for free to get more people to join your newsletter. Not only because they'll join your newsletter, but then they'll hopefully look at your free resource, and if they like it, they're going to get interested. So not only you're getting a lead, but then that lead is going to become qualified through your free offering. And do make sure that if you offer something for free, it's of the highest quality, because a lot of times, like, authors just put a little novella they wrote a long time ago and haven't even edited as a free stuff because, hey, they're giving it for free. But then you give the wrong impression to the reader. You give the impression to the readers that you're a bad writer, basically.
Yeah. Well, think of it like you own a restaurant and you have someone handing out samples of your food out front. If you gave them the spoiled food, people are going to automatically assume that's what all your food is like. So you want to present your very best up front.
Yeah, turning souls, restaurant metaphor. Man,
it's as if I were a writer.
I'm gonna steal some stuff from this webinar.
That's fine, man. I'm good with metaphors. I'll hook you up.
Yeah, I see that. No, it's awesome. So yeah, we talked about the reader magnets. If you have a reader magnet, it's very easy to run Facebook lead ads. So if you've never tested those, ask a question in the Q&A afterwards, because I'm not going to be able to go into those. But I've spent thousands of dollars and more on Facebook lead ads for Reedsy. They work very well. You need just a Zapier integration. You can run group giveaways. I don't know if you've done that, Kevin, through Instagram and BookFunnel.
Yeah, actually, very successfully. And BookFunnel, well, both InstaFreebie and BookFunnel have been great for that. But BookFunnel was amazing in this last giveaway that I participated in.
So how does it work for the people who don't know what group giveaway?
So BookFunnel will deliver your book, and here's what's great. Damon Courtney is the guy who built this. He's a fantastic guy. BookFunnel will actually deliver your book in the format that your readers prefer, and they'll support it. So it takes that weight off of you. So if they only read on Kindle, they will make sure that they get a Kindle version of that book. They have a list integration tool where you can actually require the reader to sign up for that mailing list and approve everything before they can download the book. There's also some securities and things built in to make sure the book can't be pirated, or at least can't be pirated very easily. So there's some great resources on that. And you can integrate BookFunnel with some of the more popular mail services like MailChimp, and I believe MailerLite actually is in there.
Absolutely.
And there's also some other cool tools, like he's added a way to sell direct and that sort of thing now, which is really very cool. But it's very easy. I created, for example, a button. Well, in this last promotion, the guy who organized the promotion used links to send people to you create a BookFunnel page where people can read the description, see the cover, get a little bit of information, and then they can sign up on that page. So the promotion went out with the links associated with each little book cover thumbnail, and the reader clicks on it and goes to that page, and if they're sold, quote unquote, they'll download it, and then they get on your mailing list, and from there it's up to you.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of BookFunnel, and I actually have a slide in there before that I didn't show on how BookFunnel works. So we'll make the slides available after the webinar along with the replay, so you'll be able to take a look at exactly how it works.
Yeah, and we're always here to answer questions, by the way. That's why we put those email addresses in our little bios at the front.
Yeah, and we'll even give you Damon Courtney's email address so you can ask him directly about BookFunnel.
They'll be happy to talk to you.
Then you can run all the kinds of giveaways. So I'm a little bit more cautious about that. I know a lot of authors who've built like mailing lists of 10,000 or more readers doing a giveaway on Kingsium or Rafflecopter. So they're giving away, for example, a paperback box set of books in a genre, or like lamps to read books, or anything that they think the readers are going to like. So it's a great way to build a very big mailing list. Like, the only thing is you're going to get people who want free stuff. So they might not, you're going to need to qualify them a lot before they start buying your books.
Right.
But I mean, again, if you want to learn more about these kinds of giveaways, ask us in the questions. And now you added this, make giveaways about a unique value add, right?
Yes, and I kind of hit on it, meaning that you want the giveaway to be unique, so that they can't get it anywhere else. Meaning, don't put up. Now, I'm breaking this rule, I admit, because I've got a first in series up available for free. I'm changing that soon, but it's much more effective if you offer something that they literally can't purchase anywhere. The only way to get it is to get on your mailing list. And it adds value. The value add part of the statement is it adds value to them in some way. So regardless of whether you sell fiction or nonfiction, think about your reader, what they would most want and what would make them happy, and then deliver a small bit of that in order to convince them to go ahead and buy more of your books. If you're a nonfiction author in particular, there's a lot of things you can offer depending on your business that might add value to that reader's life. If you concentrate on adding value, they will appreciate you more, and they'll become fans and keep following your work and your career.
Yeah, exactly. Offering a mailing list exclusive.
Right.
And if you interact with your list, it will grow. Was that the case for you?
Yes. And what I've discovered, so I did an experiment recently in January. I actually pulled all of my advertising and decided that I would focus on the list and see. The experiment was, can I continue to grow if I'm not advertising, if I focus on my existing audience? And the results have been pretty amazing. Advertising helps me grow at a much more rapid pace, but focusing on the list, pulling back and keeping my attention on the list, at least from time to time, because I'm going to make this a recurring thing. What it does is strengthen my relationship with them. They're much bigger fans, and they actually share my work with others. They share the newsletter with people. They share, anytime I say, I need some reviews on this book, they'll go off and ask family and friends to review the book. And they do that because they trust me and know me. And the only way you get to that level is if you're willing to have conversations, personal conversations. I ask open-ended questions in my emails. I share, you don't have to share every detail about your life, but I share some things. We're taking a family trip. We're going to, here's a picture of me and my dog. And just have, develop that kind of personal relationship with them. And it will weed out the people who don't care about any of that and only want free stuff, but it will strengthen your bond with your core readership. And that's invaluable. I
like that. So it grows, like your list will grow not necessarily in numbers, but in effectiveness.
Yeah, but it'll grow in numbers too. That's what's been surprising to me is they'll share the newsletter with other people. Or if I say, hey, look, I'm giving away this short story to people who sign up to my list, if you want to share it with somebody, and they'll go share on my behalf. And that costs me nothing except the time to pull it together.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. We need to talk about newsletter swaps, I think. Absolutely. Because these are one of the most effective ways to market a book, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I threw in my recent example with 5-star thrillers, which is Phil Williams, or maybe Phil Williamson. I'm sorry, Phil. And that one was this is what's interesting. I say be picky / selective. Here's what he did, and I think is a great model. He went on Amazon and found all the indie authors in his genre who had a minimum number of reviews. I think it originally started at like 40 reviews. Now it's like 150. And of 5 stars and above, average 5 stars and above. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not above. Averaging 4 and 5 stars. Let me get this right. So let me recap. He went and found a minimum number of reviews for these authors. So they had to have, let's say, 50, and they had to average 4 and 5 stars. And then he approached the authors and said, look, I'm going to set up this giveaway. We're going to do it through first Insta Freebie, and then I think I'm the one who talked him into doing Book Funnel eventually. And then we send these out to our mutual lists. We can rely on the fact that each of these authors is a vetted author. They've got 5-star reviews on average. They've got at least 50 reviews on the book they're promoting. They have a mailing list of X number of people. And then we all sent these out, and they're all, tracked links. So like UTM tracking and that sort of thing. And we promoted each other's books as part of the promotion. And it was a huge promotion. I think I got nearly 7,000 registrations off of this last promotion, which is just phenomenal. And because of that, I mean, I've done this several times with this guy now, and I've brought other thriller authors into it. This one's specific to thrillers, but you want to be very selective about who you do a newsletter swap with is basically the point. You want to qualify those people, like, but you also want to be cognizant of what you're bringing to the table. So you can say, look, I'm bringing a list of, I've got 35,000 people on my list. I want to promote this book. This book has been a bestseller, or this book has got 100 reviews, and it's average 4 stars. Play up your positives, and then you want to find like-minded individuals that you can swap with.
And I like your point on being respectful, because everyone's sharing their readers, so you don't want those readers to get stuff by another author.
Right. The last thing I would want is to promote, Joe Smith, and then find out that every time a reader asks Joe Smith a question, he curses them down, and so because I'm never going to promote that guy again. So you don't want to be Joe Smith. You want to be, every time I get a reader who tells me they came in through, Ernest Dempsey, for example, great thriller writer. He's got some books on pre-order right now. Go buy them. You're welcome, Ernie. But every time I get a reader from him who says, I found you through Ernie Dempsey, I am falling all over myself to tell them how wonderful Ernie is, and how much I respect and like the guy, and how much I love his books. So, be that kind of positive influence on their readers, and you're going to find them much more willing to promote you. Don't be all ulterior motive about this, but I mean, be sincere, but use the goodness within you, and you'll get a lot of benefit out of it.
I like this quote. Use the goodness within you. Can be applied to pretty much any kind of marketing. Cool. So we've talked about price promotion, so we're not going to go into that too much. It's basically discounting your book so that you get more traffic on it. You remember ReadSee has like something for book reviewers, but something for book promotion services as well. Mm-hmm. So the most famous one is BookBub. There are a bunch of alternatives that are easier to get, and you can find them all in this URL, basically. Now, really getting short on time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go very quickly through the 3 forms of advertising that work best for authors. And then if you have questions about them, we basically, tackle those during Q&A. Right. So Facebook ads, everyone has heard about them. Facebook's got a lot of data about everyone. So that's a bad thing for, I guess, everyone, but it's a good thing for advertisers. So if you become an advertiser, you can target people who like specific authors. So you plug in your comp authors, and you can target their fans directly. You can create carousels, you can create videos. There's a bunch of things you can do. Some ground rules is to use as little text as possible in your ad image. Sometimes if your ad image doesn't feature your cover, it's okay, especially in fantasy and science fiction. Your headline is your second most important thing after the image, so you keep it short and powerful. And then you need to work on kind of the text above the ad, so this part here. And depending on who you're targeting, you can use plot-focused blurbs, which tend to work better for male audiences, or character ones, which tend to work better for female audiences.
If you're nonfiction, by the way, focus on the problem you're solving.
True. Absolutely. And so these are ads that are like promoting paid books, but you can also run lead ads or conversion ads to freebies and magnets to grow your list. AMS, I've played a lot less with AMS, but they're pretty amazing because you're targeting people on Amazon. So AMS is Amazon Marketing Services. They show up into the sponsored products are probably the best ones, I think. I don't know if you've tried product display, Kevin.
Yes, I've played around. I've got a couple of in each camp, basically,
Okay.
ads floating around. It's hard for me to say right now which one does better, but they kind of, for me, they kind of work on par.
Okay, cool. Well, if you've got any AMS questions, ask Kevin.
No, don't ask me. Ask Brian Meeks.
Brian.
I'll be glad to put you in touch with him.
So some quick thing. The creative part of it is very simple because Amazon uses a lot from your book already. The most tricky thing is like the keyword targeting. And I think the main advice is to use as many keywords in the beginning as possible. Because otherwise you're just not going to spend your budget and you're not going to see any results. Now,
Right.
a pretty horrible thing is that Amazon attributes sales after 7 days now. It used to be 3 days. So you kind of have to wait 2 weeks before you see whether a keyword is worth it or not.
Yeah, that is very difficult.
Yeah, and AMS reporting doesn't include audio sales, KU reads, or sales that come from a ranking boost. So even if your ROI is slightly negative on an AMS campaign, you might want to keep it going because, for example, you're in KU and you're getting KU reads out of it, or because you're getting a ranking boost through it, and so you're getting additional sales. There's a bunch of additional factors to take into account that the Amazon reporting is not going to show you. Cool. I'm going to go quickly. BookBub, CPM, TPC. I've never played with those, but I know a lot of authors have.
Yeah, I haven't played with these yet either. But a lot of authors I know are getting a lot of success out of them.
So if you're subscribed to a BookBub newsletter, which you should in your genre, you will have seen these kind of ads at the bottom of the newsletter. And so this is what we mean by BookBub CPM, CPC ads. They're self-serve ads, so they're not the BookBub feature deals that are almost impossible to get. They're ads you pay for just like Amazon or Facebook ads, and you pay by impression, CPM, or by click, CPC.
Yeah. And they can get somebody through you guys to design their ad, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're on that. I'm sorry. I thought we'd skip that slide. I'm just gonna throw it in there.
Yeah, ask your designer, and if your designer is on ReadSee, then ask your designer on ReadSee. You can try your hand on Canva as well if you want to do something yourself. I'd recommend starting on your own, kind of. So I'm really not promoting ReadSee here. Try your hand on your own and see something that works. Like try a bunch of stuff, see something that works, and then get a designer to make it better. Basically.
Yeah. One trick you can use that would help is if you are subscribing to that newsletter, which you should be, go back through as many of them as you can and see which ones immediately catch your attention.
Yeah.
And then screenshot those and see if you can replicate what it is about that that's really catching on with you.
Exactly. So now we've touched on this, but the main thing that prompted me to talk about marketing in this webinar is because we're getting a lot of authors coming to ReadSee to hire marketers, and most of the time they're not ready for that. So I wanted to do this kind of webinar to educate them as to what marketing is and what you need to know before you go hire professional help. So I'm just going to go over this quickly because it's very important to me. So reasons why you should hire a book marketer. If you want professional feedback on your author platform, so you've launched 3 books already, they're not selling, you don't really understand why, you can contact marketers and you do maybe a 1-hour consultation. They're going to go over your platform. Maybe they're going to tell you your covers aren't good enough. Maybe they're going to tell you don't have the right categories. But it's basically an assessment of what you've done so far and what you'd be changing. That's helpful. If you want someone to help you put together your marketing plan, now that's going to be a lot more expensive because they're going to spend a lot more time with you.
Right.
So be aware that might cost you $1,000 or more to have something someone like basically go through all the steps we went through in this webinar and put together a marketing plan for you, and start executing and like teach you how to execute it. That said, I mean, it's an investment, but at the same time, you're going to learn from the best on how to put together a marketing plan. So you get what you paid for. If you want to try a new marketing channel, for example, you haven't tried Facebook ads and you don't want to like throw hundreds of dollars into testing it, you can either pay a course like Mark Dawson or hire someone who's an expert at Facebook ads to start setting them up for you and doing the first few rounds of testing. So they're going to teach you basically how to use that channel, and then you work with them for a month, and then you just like run off with the acquired expertise and do it on your own. Or if you've been running successful ad campaigns, this is like last case scenario, and you want to kind of scale them. You've been getting success with AMS ads, but you only have found like 4 or 5 keywords, and you want to find more, and you want to hire an expert AMS marketer. We have a few on ReadSee who can like help you scale it up and automate it. Now, the reasons why you shouldn't hire a book marketer is if you just want someone to do the marketing for you. That doesn't exist. No one's going to do the marketing for you. They can help teach you. They can help you set some campaigns up. They can help draft you a marketing plan, but no one's going to execute it for you. So don't come in with that mentality. Otherwise, all the book marketers just going to decline your request and run away. If you haven't invested in professional,
let's put it this way: you can find someone who will do it for you. You probably cannot afford that person. I'm just going to throw that out there.
That's true. I know. No, we have someone on ReadSee who will do it for you. They're going to charge you $10K a month.
Right.
But that's, I mean, this falls into the category of like, you've been running some successful things so far, and you want to take it to the next level, and you're prepared to invest $10K.
Right.
If you haven't invested in professional editing and design, it's not worth hiring a marketer because they're just going to decline your request. They're going to run away anyway because they're going to see that. If you don't have a strong enough product, it's not worth putting money into marketing it because you're not going to get the sales anyway. If you don't know who your target market is, that's like the number one question a marketer is going to ask you to assess whether you have an idea about book marketing and who your book is for or not. And if you don't, they're just not going to be interested in working with you. Keep in mind that the good book marketers, they have tons of clients already. They're not necessarily looking for new clients. They're looking for new, interesting opportunities. So you kind of need to convince them. So yeah, it's a weird thing. And last thing, if you don't know anything and you don't want to learn about digital marketing, again, if you want someone to just do it for you, you're not going to find that person.
But that's not you guys, because you sat through this whole marketing webinar. So
and you've been asking questions as well.
Yeah.
And I touched on like marketers versus VAs, and a lot of people ask me why we don't have VAs on ReadSee, because I think they interfere a little bit about marketers, but they're fundamentally different. So we talked about like the admin life before, and that's like what VAs will do for you. They will do the work, they will do some of the dirty work for you, where there's book marketers more often, they won't do that. Marketers are people who've like previous knowledge of digital marketing, internet marketing. They work with best-selling authors. They've put together marketing strategies that work for best-selling authors. And they will mostly guide you and teach you. It's more like consultation basis. Whereas virtual assistants are people who you can delegate tasks to. So if you already know what works and you want someone to do it for you, you can go to a virtual assistant. But you're going to teach them whereas a book marketer is going to teach you.
You could always hire the book marketer to teach your VA. If you really want to throw money at the problem.
Exactly. Yeah, that is a good solution.
Yeah.
So we're trying a good book marketer. Obviously, there's ReadSee. I took the screenshot because Mark Leslie Lefebvre,
Mark.
who everyone's familiar with, recently joined ReadSee, and he appeared first in the search results. So I thought, okay, got to put that screenshot in there. So you can hire Mark through ReadSee to put together your marketing plan.
Excellent. Man, I should list myself in ReadSee, man.
Yeah, if you want to. We can talk about that later.
Because I don't have enough to do. I don't have enough stuff going on. I should
I see that.
Load up my plate more.
Cool. These are some resources I recommend all the time. I should have thrown in Brian Meek's guide to Amazon as well, Amazon ads. But Amazon Decoded is a book that everyone should get. So you'll have the slides, you'll have the link, but basically it's a mailing list exclusive from David Gaughran. So you have to join his mailing list to get it for free. And it's really, really good book.
It's an excellent book. It's short read. You could read it in an hour or less. So definitely pick it up. It's free.
Exactly. If you run Facebook ads, I recommend Michael Cooper's book on how my Facebook ads suck. He's got some very specific advice in there that has worked for him. What works for me is very, very different. So I'd say like test what he says and see whether it works for you or not, but just don't necessarily apply everything he says directly.
If you have no clue where to start, though, Michael's book is great. I mean,
that's true.
You can get much more advanced with it. I don't want to dog Michael. I love his book, and I met him for the first time last year. So he's a great guy. But it's his way. So just be aware of that when you go in. Exactly,
and he says it very clearly.
He does make that clear. Yeah, it's not the way. It's just his way.
His way. And I'm pretty sure that if you implement it, you're already going to see pretty good results.
Yeah.
And then finally, Mark Dawson's ads for author scores. I mean, I'm sure you've heard about it before, but I think we both vouch for him.
Who is this Mark Dawson guy? And this is only available at certain times. So yeah. Mark's a brilliant marketer. I'm just going to put that right out to you. If you can't go wrong in imitating what Mark Dawson does from the basics on up. So
there is a Mark and marketer.
Yeah, there is a Mark and marketer.
Wow.
There's also an editing and marketer, but or marketing anyway. There's not editing and marketer. Let's just scrap that entire line of thought and move on.
Delete that from the replay.
I've run out of coffee.
Okay, so last resource from Reedsy is Reedsy Learning. If you haven't heard of it, we've got a bunch of free courses available. We've got 35,000 students now enrolled in them. It's a very simple way to learn something new each day. We've got courses on Facebook ads, Amazon ads, mailing lists, a bunch of stuff. So again, available at this URL. Cool. And now resources from G2D.
Yes. So we already kind of covered we did cover the conversion and worldwide distribution. And these are the 5 steps. That's all. It probably looks more complicated than it really is. I'm not even kidding you. You can do this. You can go from uploading your manuscript to hitting publish in 10 minutes or less if you've got your metadata and all that stuff all gathered up. And most of you are going to. So it's a very quick and simple and easy process. We make it very painless, and we'll support you through the whole thing.
Awesome.
Then I put in these, and we'll go through them real quickly because I know we're out of time. But we offer, and this is an overlap, but options. We offer a gorgeous ebook templates, and this will provide you with both an ebook and a print-ready PDF that you can upload to any POD service. There's no special software. I have actually literally used this in my mobile browsers to convert a short story to publish, a short story I wrote in line at Disney World even. And everything about it is free. And then these are our 2 new things that are awesome. Great resources. Book tab, D2D book tabs are essentially a product page for your book where you can actually, you've got some modifications and options you can make here, but it'll give the book description, book title. It has a bio for the author. You can include your social media links so that these folks can follow you. It'll even send them back to your homepage. There's a little homepage link there. And D2D author pages, these 2 things are brand new, and this is an incredible tool, man. This is, if you don't have a homepage, if you're struggling with the whole website thing, you can get a website done for you with Reedsy. And in the meantime, you can use these author pages. I actually think these are great author pages that you could still include on an existing website. All this is customizable. There's even a link for readers to join your mailing list. We don't get any of that. We don't gather any of that. What it does is let you link to something like your book funnel page, or a form on your website, or anything you want. You can put anything you want there, so that they can get on your mailing list straight from this page. And you've got, if you don't have a mailing list, if you haven't done that yet, we have a new release notification tool that will alert readers to new releases, and they can just click on that. It's not a mailing list, but it's kind of the next best thing sort of thing if you're having trouble with that. So we can at least alert readers every time you get a new book out there. And there's sales and promotion tools, and that uses our universal book links, which you find at bookstoread.com. And that will send readers to everywhere your book is available online. It's even regional. Even point them to the right regional store. This is a great tool. So you only need one link in order to send readers to wherever they want to buy your book. And of course, that's built into all those little thumbnails you see there. So they click on that book, they can go to whichever storefront they prefer. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, man. These are great tools. These are game-changing tools, in my opinion, and they are what authors really wanted most. So
awesome, and that's pretty much it. So we got there. Now we're going to go to the questions. So keep posting them, and I've got someone from my team who sends them to me, so I'll try to address them.
Excellent.
Pretty much in order.
This is my favorite part. We could have skipped the whole webinar and just done the questions, probably.
Yeah, I know. But it wouldn't be a webinar.
Then it wouldn't be a webinar. Yeah.
I'm not going to remain on this slide. I'm going to remain on this slide. It's better. This could give us a headache.
Yeah, I'm starting to have an epileptic seizure. And this one's got pretty book covers.
Exactly. There you go. More promotion. So we've got a question we've got two questions on Amazon and Amazon keywords. How many keywords should be long tail keywords versus more competitive in the 7 keywords you pick?
What's your take? That's an interesting question. I'm going to have to ponder. So what is your take on that?
Wow. So my take was to let you answer and ponder it.
Well, I mean,
I'd say it's impossible to know without testing.
Yeah. Testing is where I was going with that. I mean, I tend to favor long term in all strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah, long tail.
Yeah, long tail is going to be easier to get. If you're in your early days, I think target mostly long tail, do all long tail, and once you start like becoming more famous and have a big following, then try throwing in a few more competitive keywords in there and see whether that boosts your sales or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It depends entirely on the strength of your platform. So if you can, it'd be interesting to start kind of brainstorming ways to test this. But I mean, if you released a book, you don't want to do this at all. But I mean, let's say you released a book and you didn't do any promotion for it, and that book still sells. Now you know that you are probably strong enough to start using those competitive keywords. I wouldn't do that, but I mean, there may be an equivalent to that. Maybe pre-orders. You could use pre-orders to determine the strength of your platform. That'd be a good one.
Another question. I'm wondering if you would ever put bestsellers in your keywords. You do that, right?
I have, like, the titles of bestsellers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's strictly allowed. I think that Amazon frowns on that, and then I actually think Amazon pulls it. So I did it early on, and but I didn't see actually a great deal of success from that. What you can do instead, like, I would not use those in your key terms. What you can do instead is work them in organically in your description in the book blurb. And I usually put this somewhere toward the bottom. And especially if I've got a quote from a reader or something that, they say this book is like Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, well, you throw those into the book description, and it can actually add a little bit on the SEO side for people finding and discovering the book. And without having to put it in the key terms, which can be against Amazon's policies.
Got it. Yeah, good answer. Now on promos, what are your thoughts on perma-free? It seems to be working for the first book of my series. So I've got strong feelings about perma-free. For me, they're really good at getting traffic, but then you need to basically monitor how many of these people who download your perma-free then make their way onto other books. Recently, I've been promoting an author's perma-free through Facebook ads and getting lots of clicks on it, relatively cheap. And that author had a 50% conversion then on her
50?
Amazon page.
Yeah.
I was like mind blown.
Okay, I want to change my answer. Because I was going to say that I've been edging away from perma-free.
Yeah, well, I'm getting there, because then we looked at her read-through, and she'd had like hundreds of downloads on book one, but then maybe 10 sales or 15 sales on book two, and 10, 15 on book three. So
yeah, that jives with my results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So perma-free is great if a lot of the people who read your first free book make their way onto books 2 and 3. But if that's not the case, then you need to change strategy, I think.
As with a lot of strategies, for those who are only, if you have 1 to 3 books, this could be a strategy that works well for you. And I'm starting to shy away from it. I have right now a first in series free, and it's getting a little played out. And surprisingly, my biggest detractors on in reviews are the ones who came in and got that book for free and then never bought through. So I'm actually leaning more toward creating a magnet that is unique, that they can only get through your website, offer that for free, and then lead it into the rest of the series. And you're actually much more able to measure the sort of read through and everything, to see how you're converting. Are you converting that person into an actual customer at that point? It's a little easier, because your results aren't muddied by people who just stumbled across it on Amazon or Apple or whatever. So
makes sense. No, there's an author I've been running ads for as well, and her first book is at $0.99, so it's not perma-free, but she has a free prequel that is mailing list exclusive, as you were mentioning.
Yeah.
And so I've been running kind of carousel ads showing both the free prequel as a free download and also showing the other books in the series. And we've been getting like almost a positive ROI just on sales of that book one.
Yeah.
And then we've been getting like hundreds of downloads of the free prequel as well.
That's fantastic.
So
that's what you want.
Exactly. That's what you want. So I'd shy away probably from perma-freeze on Amazon, but definitely have like kind of a prequel free as a mailing list exclusive.
Yep. I concur, Doctor. That's exactly what I would prescribe.
Awesome. When you aren't in a countdown deal and you run a promo on Amazon, how do you let your customers know that you are in a special offer? Yeah, because Amazon's not going to show it.
Oh, well, they do show. If you do a countdown deal, they actually
don't. If you don't do a countdown deal.
Oh, if you don't do it and you do a promotion, I use that little above the fold area above the read more, and basically drop my tagline down a line, and then I put a special notice that now through June 2nd, this book is only 99 cents or whatever. And Amazon allows that. There's so far as I've been able to determine, there's no violation of their terms of service, and it's temporary anyway. So you put that blurb up there, and then I actually would then put all my promotion energy and money into promoting the pre-order, rather than the books that are on sale. Because basically that book, you heard this, some people think this is a myth, but your best marketing tool is your next book, right? So go and promote your new book as far and wide as possible. And then people coming in to check that out are probably going to take a look at the stuff that's surrounding it, the rest of the series. And that's when you'll kind of pick them, get their attention.
Makes sense.
Yeah. You can mention it, by the way, in the blurb of your pre-release, your pre-order as well, that you offer books 1 and 2 for 99 cents through, June 2nd. You can mention it in there.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea. Yeah, it's a good way to leverage the blurb area.
Just change it after the fact.
Yeah, don't forget to change back to like admin stuff.
Yeah.
Question about getting reviews from Melissa. I have a client who wants to hold a house party where she provides a computer where attendees can write reviews. Is that kosher on Amazon?
Yeah, okay. Here's my rule of thumb for determining whether or not something is going to violate Amazon's terms of service. If you have to ask, then it probably will. I would say that that's probably not a good idea. Yeah. For one thing, Amazon actually does pay attention to the IP addresses from where these reviews come in, if they suspect that there's any suspicious activity. So, and they do kind of crack down on family members and that sort of thing leaving reviews. If you suddenly get a whole bunch of reviews that are not verified purchases, and they look and see that they're all from the same IP address, meaning it all came from your home network, that is problematic, and they will probably pull all those reviews and may go even further and penalize you.
Yeah, totally agree on that one.
And here's the rule: don't scam Amazon. Scamming Amazon is bad, and it will always come back to bite you in the butt.
And we're back to metaphors.
Right.
Cool. A bunch of questions about D2D. Can you talk about Draft2Digital's Overdrive? I've just recently heard about it and want to make sure I'm using it properly to get my books into libraries.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like every other sales channel we offer. It's an opt-in. You can set your library price can be set actually different from your cover price, and we actually will auto-populate that field with a recommended price. There's nothing to it. If you do need to be aware that if you're in Kindle Unlimited, for example, that this still counts. You can't distribute to Overdrive. It still counts as part of the exclusivity arrangement you have with Amazon. If you're wide, there's no problem. I forget the number. I should have pulled it up, I guess, but I don't have all the information about how many libraries this Overdrive hits worldwide, but it's a lot. And it also hits schools, businesses, and public libraries. So there's quite a bit there. And your best approach, by the way, is to get the book listed. It takes time. We don't have any control over how fast the book gets listed. So what I would do is try to ramp that up as early as possible. Get that book distributed as early as possible. And if you will start approaching libraries, like your local library, for example, and just start asking about that book, going and doing, they usually have their Overdrive service. You can go and log in, search for it, and request it. That's how you can get them to pick the book up. We're going to be introducing a lot of library-centric stuff over the next year. So you'll want to pay attention to that. But if you have questions about Overdrive, if you feel like, if I'm not covering it, because I'm really not an expert on Overdrive as much as I probably should be, but we have, reach out to our support folks, because we've got a whole bunch of things we've pulled together to help you out with that.
Awesome. Another question about Draft2Digital. When you specified your categories on Draft2Digital, how do the vendors decide which ones to use?
Something glitched out and I didn't hear the whole question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. When you specify your categories on Draft2Digital, how do the vendors decide which ones to use?
Well, I mean, so essentially that's going to go from top to bottom, right? And it'll probably grab, depending on which vendor it is, they'll probably grab the first three. Some vendors, Amazon's like this, so I imagine others are like this, but they may actually, if you have 5 categories or whatever, they may actually secretly include those, but they'll only display categories, or they'll only really tap you into categories that are popular for you, the ones that are getting you the most juice, basically. So, what I would do is prioritize your categories, and do the same thing with key terms, by the way, but prioritize those as what's the top category you'd really want to hit. and what's the second and what's the third. And then the others are kind of just interchangeable potluck, extras. Some sales channels use them. Some sales channels will show like 5 categories, but most don't. And so you want to make sure you prioritize the ones you want up top.
That makes perfect sense. Now I've got a suggestion from Rekka J, which makes me want to go into your street team all the more. Kevin needs to buy his street team $70 bottles of scotch.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay, Rekka. I'm glad that they're readers and not authors, because they would bug me about that now. Tell you what, I'll get the street team down to 3 people, and I'll buy them each a $70 bottle of scotch.
That sounds good, as long as I'm one of those 3.
Yeah, exactly. If you can review the book 100 times, man, you're in.
Now, a more serious question from James R. Tramontana, who used Ingram Spark to go wide. He asks whether he can still do draft to digital.
Yeah, you'll have to pull your books from any channels you're distributing to with Ingram Spark that you want to distribute to. Any overlapping channels, you'll want to pull them, and you want to make sure they're delisted, which we can offer some assistance with that, at least as far as checking to make sure that you're delisted. But you can do that, and you can also use us to do all your file conversion and all that stuff. And if you have to stick with some channels on there, you can. But we'll help out. If you reach out to us, we'll offer whatever assistance we can. Just support@draftdigital.com. Our people, we have real live humans. Although after Google's Google Duplex announcement today, maybe we'll get some robots working for us, kind of lighten our load.
Isn't that a great idea? Who doesn't love a good robot?
They'll never replace Tara and the team at Draft to Digital, though. There's just no way.
One of the main reasons we recommend Draft to Digital. Sorry about that. One of the main reasons we recommend Draft to Digital all the time is the support. So another question about Draft to Digital: can D2D offer the ability to see how many pre-orders we have on retailers in our sales dashboard?
Yeah. Okay. We get asked this a lot, and I understand exactly why, because it's not going to appear in the sales dashboard because of the way that most of the sales channels do reporting. It's something we're working to crack, though, because it's a question we get often. You can, if you do a pre-order, you can reach out to us and request that to get those numbers, and we can basically what we have to do is we have to manually go to these folks and ask for that information. So it's a little time intensive, particularly if we get a whole bunch of authors doing it. But it's something we do because we know how important that is. It's just it's out of our control, and we do our best to try to make it happen for everybody. But we will, we can get that information manually. It's not going to appear in the dashboard. Maybe in the future, there's all kinds of things we're trying to work out to make that happen. But at least you can get that information. It's just not always going to be at a click on that kind of stuff.
No, it's good to know. And again, there you go. You see how powerful having a good support is.
We at least know that that's a thing, and that's something that authors are going to want. So we do have solutions. They just aren't always ideal solutions, and we do our best to make sure you're getting everything you need. I mean, we always will.
Cool. So now I have a few questions about ReadSee, so I'm going to answer them quickly. I'm going to switch.
You don't want me to answer questions about ReadSee for you?
I don't know. I mean.
No, I should make. I inflected up at the end. I meant you don't want me to answer questions about ReadSee for you.
No. You're the first one to promote ReadSee conferences, so I know you can.
I am. That's our reverse marketing.
Exactly. That's our next webinar will be about reverse marketing.
That's right. We're charging for that one, though.
Yeah, definitely. That's how reverse marketing works. Wow. So the question from Vicarious Tube, how do you find the right editor for your specific book? Well, that's a really good question. We've got a bunch of resources about that on ReadSee. My main tip is to identify people who've worked in your genre, who've worked on books that are similar to yours. When you reach out to them, make sure you include, you mentioned who your target market is, attach a sample of your manuscript, and then ask to see a sample of their work. So if you're going for a copy edit or proofread, get them to do a sample on your manuscript. If you're going for more like big picture developmental editing or an editorial assessment, maybe ask them to see something that they've done for another author in the past. And start a conversation with them. They'll naturally have comments about your book, so keep the conversation going and see whether you two are a fit personality-wise, because that's going to be one of the most important things in the author-editor relationship. Now, does our ReadSee offer blurb critique and writing? Yeah, we've got book marketers available on the marketplace. And yes, some of them do offer blurb critique and writing. So again, in the past, we've had authors coming with this very question, and I've sent some to editors and I've sent some to designers, and it's always worked better when I've sent them to marketers, because copywriting is very different from writing and editing. So do reach out to book marketers on ReadSee, or to Kevin on ReadSee. Once it's there.
Go to Reedsy.
Listen to the man, and ask them for a blurb critique. And does ReadSee offer a service of reading your book and telling you whether it's worth carrying on? Yes and no. You can reach out to editors for that, and that's what the editorial assessment is for. No editor is going to tell you in an editorial assessment, drop this book. They're going to tell you
how to fix it.
How to fix it, exactly. Yeah. How to modify it so that you don't have to drop it. And
because we all want to see you succeed. We don't ever want to tell you, you know, that's the whole no gatekeeper thing. We don't want to tell you you're not good enough, kid.
Yeah. There's enough publishers and agents saying that already.
Yeah, you can go submit it to an agent for that.
Yes, if you want a free service that's going to tell you your book's not worth it, then submit to an agent. Anyway. Does ReadSee help with language translations? Not yet. I have very good reason for that, because I honestly, out of all the authors I know, I maybe only know 5 or 10 who would be able to pay for a translation and for whom it would make sense to pay for a translation.
Yeah.
So if you're a New York Times bestselling author with a huge platform and you have a good reason why you want to be translated into, my thing is German. It's kind of the only language in which it makes sense right now.
Right. Then
do reach out to me. You've got my email address, and I'll be more than happy to recommend a bunch of really, really good literary translators I know, because I do know them. Now, another question on giveaways. So that's a question I get a lot, is if I'm writing my first book and I'm going to be selling my first book, what can I offer for free as like a magnet or a giveaway thing?
Yeah. There's a lot of, well, you've been asked a lot. Go ahead and I won't interrupt you, man. I'm trying not to interrupt you.
I don't know. Go for it.
No, so this is where you get to have some fun and be creative. Like, there's all kinds of things, and you want to put yourself in the headspace of the potential reader, that ideal reader, to figure out what would excite them or what would meet their needs, or, you know, depending on what genre you're writing in, nonfiction, fiction, whatever. But you can, you know, some people have had a lot of success doing like giveaways of physical objects, for example, offering they'll do this sort of raffle style, like you're going to give a Kindle Fire, or they're going to give an iPad or something. I did that a couple of times. You know, if budget is a concern, and for a lot of us it is, you can offer, you know, bonus chapters. You can offer some, if you're a nonfiction writer, you can offer some one-on-one time on Skype or something. There's all kinds of things. So really just be creative. Look around also. There are people who are offering all kinds of things out there. You can ape someone else's giveaway. There's no problem with that. Just, you know, figure out what would make your ideal reader the happiest to get for free, and see if you can offer it to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think giveaways, like when it's your first book, are a great way to make friends with other authors.
Yeah.
So ask like 5 indie authors who are selling well in your genre. Can I give away a copy of your paperback?
Yeah, that's a very good one, because not only does that help you attract new readers, they'll probably promote that to their mailing list too.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a very good one.
Well, on that note, that's almost all the questions my team's flagged here. If there are more questions we haven't answered, again, drop us an email, because as the buzz before seemed to indicate, I kind of have to run.
All right.
But yeah, drop us a line. We're going to send an email tomorrow with the replay of this webinar, with the slides as well. As you can see, there's a bunch of links, there's a bunch of info in the slides, so you're going to get those for free. Yep. Kevin's going to send all of you a $70 bottle of scotch.
And this is asterisk, not a guarantee. Depends on how many of my books you buy in the next 30 minutes. If you buy every single one of my books in the next 30 minutes,
exactly,
maybe we'll talk.
You might get it. Cool. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to the, well, more than 200 of you who stayed 2 hours in this webinar.
Wow.
It means a lot to us. We hope you got something away out of this. Again, we'll send you an email with a replay, with the slides. You can answer that email with any additional questions you have. I'll be getting all the answers, but I'll forward the trickiest ones to Kevin so that he can answer them directly.
There you go.
And on that note, Kevin, it's been a real pleasure.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
Finally, we did this, and I think, yeah,
we'll do it again, and
awesome.
we'll try to keep it less than 2 hours next time. But yeah, it's been great. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for including us.
Have a good day, everyone.
Take care.